I'm having one of those days where when I do something dumb, which I feel like I'm doing dumb stuff at the regular interval, like then I'm experiencing the normal amount of stupidity I experience in a day. When something dumb happens, I just feel it like I slam my face into a door.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know that feeling a lot. We all have those days. Could you be getting your period? No.
I could be. It does happen to me once a month. I go through a depressive cycle, but I'm definitely not bleeding in any capacity. No.
Checks hands.
Checks.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Catherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym KA Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
I've wanted to come back to the hive versus the anarcho whale thing, like
yes,
for so long, but it never made
the first opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that was,
and yet the crabs are not a particularly individualistic species, so like it doesn't feel like they're being pitted against their true opposite. Like
all I can have today is an emotional response to this because I'm feeling frustrated about. Like, there's something that the books knows that I do not yet know about this arrangement. Like, of course the ants are bad, but I'm like, show me your work. And they're like, the nests are bad. And I'm like, show me your work. Like, why do we do we hate public transit, Kate? What's going on here?
It's like hating colonists feels very obvious. And
did she just write the books when spring was starting and ants were coming into her house?
I saw ants at the fucking complimentary breakfast and I almost lost my mind. I was like, this is...
Well,
I'm sorry, dude.
And I just wanted to say, this did serve as anti-ant propaganda for me as a child.
Again?
Because when I was a kid reading these books, I would tell people, if ants had nuclear wars, if they had nuclear weapons, they would obliterate each other in seconds.
Maybe
Eddie,
this was all
so
Big Mom.
Consistent throughout our life. I can picture you saying,
if you give Chris nuclear weapons, they would obliterate us.
To make kids more fearful when their mom said, if you keep leaving food out like that, you're going to get ants.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, if I get ants, those guys are fucked up. They might try to take over my whole room and colonize
if I leave
it.
Food out, I get ants. If I leave drinks out, I get uncles. Is that what's happening here? All right, so let's go back into it. Chapter 31.
Yeah. We can fade in somewhere in there, I think, right?
Yeah.
I think just pick it up 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Chapter 31. Ax and the others arrive at. Wait one moment. I have a lot of saliva in my mouth. Ax and the others arrive.
Are you using those mints? Are you using those mints that are designed for people with cotton mouth, but now porn stars are using them to give sloppy blowjobs? Is that what you're doing?
No, but I will acquire these mints now. Okay, chapter 31.
Mints for bombs.
Ax and the others arrive at the nest base, located at the base of a volcano. They're the good guys, right? It's entirely unlike the peaceful agricultural community of the Mercora. The nest base is a sparsely vegetated military compound lined with perimeter defenses. The technology is diverse. Ships from 2 or 3 unknown civilizations, weapons from a few others. Cassie identifies a heavily defended dirt mound and wonders if their queen is inside. But their focus should be on finding their weapons, Rachel points out. Marco believes he's found the warehouse where they'd store their weapons. Jake assigns Ax and Rachel to go get the nuke. Ax to identify the nuke, Rachel to grab it with her Deinonychus hands. Marco and Tobias will flank on one side, and Jake and Cassie will flank on the other.
Jassy, as they're known.
To anyone else, the
Or
base...
Cake.
Yeah.
Cake is a relationship name.
To anyone else, the base might appear empty, but the Animorphs know that the Nesk are likely there in their ant-like form, only assembling into other forms when provoked. Ax studies their ships, their building materials. He begins to comment on the Nesk through thought speak, when all of a sudden an alarm goes off. A thought speak detector! Of course, because the Mercora use thought speak. A red-black river of Nesk poured from the mound, Ax describes, more belched up from the ground beneath us. The soil was alive with them, millions of them. The Nesk start to enter the various ships and take off. Ax and Rachel focus on finding the bomb, while the rest of the Animorphs see how much damage their dinosaur morphs can do.
Why don't the Yeerks have thought speech detectors?
No, they...
Who knows what lurks in the empty bases of the Nesk?
You could just turn them off when
The
Visser 3
Animorphs
comes.
knows.
I think what happened, Miranda, is that the Yeerks, they were at the store, they could get the thought speak detector, or they could get, what is it that they had in their McDonald's?
The Gleep biofilter.
Yes, and they were like, we only have the budget for one of these two devices.
Yes, yeah. So we only have 5 minutes to talk about this chapter, and the thought speak detector is the thing that we're going to have to talk about this a little later on, but I feel like if they have a thought speak detector, it kind of implies that all thought speak happens in at least the similarly detectable way. But we can let's put a pin in that and just come back to that a little later on. Maybe after we finish the book.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like the Yeerks should have it. You're right, though, that if they tuned it directly to Mercora Thought Speak and it just so happens to be really similar to Andalite Thought Speak, I guess maybe, but if they had this technology 65 million years ago, why don't the Yeerks have it now? Except that Visser 3 won't shut the fuck up.
Exactly. And maybe it just means that there's sort of like the way that audible speech is vibrating the air. There's something that mind speech vibrates that we just don't know about yet.
You know what? It sort of reads like everything in this whole battle is where it's not going to stick around, so we might as well get it out of our system here. So we have thought speak detectors, and these dinosaurs are allowed to run amok in this base. They just destroy everything.
It's true.
They do everything as if they're not going to have those dinosaur morphs for too much longer. So...
I mean, I bet you they come back next Megamorphs book.
Yes.
We'll talk.
It would be fun if they did.
All right, should we get cooking to chapters 32 and 33?
Yeah.
By the way, this hyphenation thing, I'm sure this is how writers do it. I can't.
Chapter 32 to 3.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. All right, here we go. Tobias observes that the Nesk have not figured out where the thought speak is coming from yet. They still have some time. There are millions of Nesk in all directions. Floodlights activate, sirens wail, voices carry, spaceships power up. Tobias tries to attack a ship in his dino cussy morph, leaping onto the vehicle, but he's too small. He gets knocked off. T-Rex Cassie attempts the same thing, and it's far more effective. Sure, she doesn't like the whole killing thing, but she says that she doesn't mind attacking ships.
Full of innocent victims.
Yes, exactly. T-Rex asks, oh my...
T-Rex asks, go on.
T-Rex, Ax, and Deinonychus, Rachel, have found a nuke. They flee from the base with the weapon while the others stick around to try and slow down the Nesk. Tobias and the others manage to take out one of the pyramidal Nesk ships, tricking one of the Nesk towers into firing at the ship. And then, well, tricking's a funny word. They knock it to face a different direction. And so it's not really a trick. They kind of just pointed it. And then they try to flee as well. Yeah, thanks for... thank you. All right. Rewriting history again. But Tobias, call back to a previous episode. But Tobias has an injured leg. He falls, believing he's done for, but T-Rex Cassie comes along to carry him in her mouth in the most painful fashion ever. Ahead of the two of them, one of the Nesk towers opens fire on them. Behind them, Tobias identifies two more of the pyramidal ships. taking off to pursue them. Ax says that he'll contact the Mercora and see if they can help. If the Animorphs can just make it past the tower to the forest, they know their achievement will be unlocked. Marco and Jake, both T-Rexes, have thought about making out, but right now there's a lot going on and have already made it to the tower. They attack the tower as if... I don't want to think about it, Marco and Jake making out, but T-Rex is making out? That's wild.
I see.
That's what happened in my... okay. Anyway, they attack the tower as it fires at KA and Tobias, trying to knock it over. That buys her enough time to reach the tower with Tobias in her mouth. Oh, this is what I was thinking of. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they did trick it. Yeah, you're right. They tricked it. Tobias in the mouth, and she gives it one last hit. The tower falls over like a mighty redwood, which won't have been invented for millions of years yet. I don't know.
That's just what they compare it to in the book.
The Animorphs have all escaped the Nesk base, but now the pyramidal fighters are in pursuit. Cut to Emberb in the studio.
We cut to Rachel's perspective. She and Ax are at the tree line with the nuke, watching as their friends flee the base. Ax has made contact with the Mercora and tells them the situation is hopeless. Rachel announces that she is going back to help their friends. Even if she falls, maybe that will be the thing that saves one of her friends. T-Rex Jake gets shot by one of the Nesk ships. He begins to demorph in order to heal himself, but not before the Nesk fire again. Rachel expects the worst, but suddenly a force field appears around Jake, protecting him. The Mercora have come to help after all. 2 Mercora ships enter the scene. Their ships resemble flying saucers. One of the Mercora ships fires at the Nesk ship just as it returns fire. Both ships explode, leaving 1 Nesk ship and 1 Mercora ship each. The Animorphs demorph to board the Mercora ship before combat continues. The Nesk seem to be surprised by the sight of the Animorphs and retreat, possibly believing them to be powerful new allies of the Mercora. The Animorphs find that each of the Mercora aboard the ship are missing a single limb. Where the limbs should be are just oozing stumps. The limbs are collected on a brightly colored cloth atop a shelf. How festive. The Mercora explain that this is the sacrifice of pain. The legs will regenerate, but those we honor will not. Their physical pain is an echo of their spiritual turmoil. Jake asks if this sacrifice is for those Mercora who perished on the other ship. For them, yes, the Mercora tell them, but also the Nesk who have been killed. To be killed is a sadness. To kill is a sin. Cassie explains that humans, Andalites, their arms and legs do not regenerate. The Mercora remark that Cassie and the others must then carry the pain inside. Yes, Cassie answers, I will.
We have to hurt your inside.
That's why we commit separately. Jake and Rachel tell the Mercora that the Animorphs owe them for saving their lives. Anything they can do to help, they'll do it. But Tobias warns Rachel not to make promises she can't keep. She looks to him for answers, but says that Hawkeyes give nothing away.
Fuck Tobias in the back.
What a chapter, dude.
Yeah.
It's fucking... We talk about Jake getting hit here, and I just want to say that the words that we see when Jake gets hit are not like, oh no, Jake! They're, he fell forward half a dinosaur.
Yeah, and that confused me for a while, because at first I thought they meant half the length of a dinosaur, and I was like, oh, he tripped and
He
just
tripped
fell.
half a dinosaur forward.
Yeah, but no, he tripped into being half of a dinosaur.
Half a dinosaur. I also thought for a second maybe they meant he was demorphing, and then I realized, no, he'd been halved. And I think this was a perfect time
I've
to
been
tell us what
halved.
happened. I've been halved. I think this was a perfect time to tell us what happened to his other half when he morphed back, but they didn't.
Nope.
We do get a lot of good sound effects in these few chapters. Just these 2 chapters alone have sap, whump, kabloom, chew, and crunch, which I think are really good.
Yeah. Eddie, I have one note on the notes. They were excellent. But the one note that I have is you had a real opportunity to get us to say the humans and Andalite alike don't have regenerating limbs or whatever. Like, that would have been so much fun to say aloud. Humans and Andalites alike. Even
Yeah,
though
it
it's
would
an
be
extra
fun to
word,
say.
it would have been so fun to say.
Yeah.
It would be fun.
But
Yeah.
we're not here to have fun, Chris. So.
You're right. We're here to cut dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right.
The talk of Cassie bearing the pain inside reminded me, it felt like an echo of book 10 with the Chi, where Eric is like, I can't commit violent acts because I remember them literally perfectly. And that is too much for a mind to live with.
Yeah.
When you have that. But I don't know, I liked it. This book makes me cry a lot. I didn't cry for real because I don't cry because I'm a bird and birds don't cry.
And birds don't
like,
cry.
That's right.
And burbs.
And birds don't cry.
Don't cry.
I think this is actually, it's so unfortunate that Chris is singing right now.
I'm sorry, I have the book up in front of me and I see Cassie saying, "Do you see the mound? Looks like a dirt pile." And that's just like, real descriptive to me.
I was not thinking of this moment when we were talking about with everything with Cassie's characterization, but we were talking about how we wondered if KA was over where his perspective is in the books, you know, with having to make the necessary losses and having to make the hard decisions, etc. I actually feel like there's a lot of the book's what the book believes about violence and is actually here also with the Mercora in this moment. I think it takes very seriously them cutting off their limbs and having this like. It's a very beautiful.
Oh, that's like a next level.
And it's like
that is
death is a tragedy, but to kill is a sin is like such a metal line.
Yeah, and I think the books do believe that. I just wonder why. Oh, so how do we?
Well, this is exactly. Yeah, this is what I was saying last episode. Is like I don't know, like that. That's what I meant by like if you guys are saying this book sides with Tobias, then it's like. The moral compass of this thing is going all wacky right now. Like, what is north here? Because I do think that this is a centerpiece of the emotional ethic of the book. It's not just Cassie saying something even, which up until this point has been how we've gotten our ethics across. Yeah. It's an alien species echoing those values in a way that like the Andalites can't do because they're so war focused.
But they chose to come back and do it. Even though they believe the killing is a sin, they did choose to do it, but they will, yes, their limbs will regenerate, but I assume, you know, like they will wear that scar of a sort forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so simple, but it makes, I think that, I don't know that maybe last episode when I mentioned it, I wonder if Cassie's going to have to, the series is going to ask Cassie to harden. I think that's true. I also think that it's not as dramatic as maybe I was imagining it in that moment. It is like, I think it might just be asking Cassie to think of it as a necessary sin of being at war. It is a sin. It's also something that is necessary. And
you can find ways to atone through community. Through atoning is hard, but the sin metaphor, I think it speaks to me because
I didn't mean to cut you off.
And they say sadness.
No.
They say to kill is a sadness, which I think is a better.
Or to die is a sadness, to kill is a sin.
Oh, that might be it. Yeah,
and
that is what they say. Yeah,
and I do feel like obviously the books take a side that if you can avoid killing, that should be what you do. But I don't know. It's more nuanced than almost any take I've encountered.
I'm
and
not
that's what
sure
makes it
yet.
hard to talk about.
Yeah, especially with Chris talking over you. I'm sorry. But
No, you're fine. And especially in the middle of the series. You're right, though. We we're not really at a place where I feel like it's like we're making bold conclusions and statements, but we're not done. Yeah. So, who knows?
And the only reason I say that is because, we have some hints about how other people talk about the book's disposition. And what we're seeing in this moment is definitely a part of a conflict arc. So it's just the books came out pre 9/11.
Yeah.
And immediately after 9/11, we're going to see a lot of kids going into the military inexplicably, which always happens in certain communities, but especially where we're from. Yeah. There was a lot of that energy going into 18-year-olds at that time.
They and they felt very righteously empowered.
It was a very strong marketing thing too. G4 TV was basically all ads for the military in between Girls Gone Wild ads, but or male enhancement ads. I guess they would.
Oh, that too. Yeah, you were either too old and needed dick pills, or you were going into the military.
Right, and it was
or you were me. An 11-year-old girl.
But sometimes I'm wondering, because it's a hard thing to do, to write a whole series, especially when you know there's going to be 64 books. And I think to say, what the arc of the series is in this moment. Like, I think when we started this series, it made more sense to say things about how the books were positioning themselves. But then, like, we realized as we went into this third season, quote unquote, it's like, they're really upending a lot of the stuff that they've, like, they're really pulling up roots. And so, like, I don't know that, like, while Tobias has made a decision here that, like, is attractive for certain reasons, and it's like we all would want, like, it's, or something like that. Like, it's like maybe the book is siding with Tobias in that moment. It's like, I don't know, man. It could just be Tobias talking and being kind of fucked up. Like, Alaran is not sympathetic because we were seeing it from Elfangor's perspective, but then, like, But
if we had been with Alaran when he chose to use the quantum virus, we might have thought he was totally justified. Like, if we had heard it from his perspective.
That's what the Chronicles is all about, I'm sure.
No, but I don't think anyone's saying that we know any of these things definitively. I think that it's just sort of kind of, this is an opportunity to kind of check in with what, it's more, I think for me, I think of it as KA thinking through these things and what does she want to say with these books, and where she's at right now might not be where she's at book 25.
Very true.
But it's just I
would imagine it's outlined. I think I'm disagreeing.
Probably.
I think she knows that it's going to curve here.
But that curve can change as she's writing it.
This moment could send a message that is contradicted by later books on purpose.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And
the level of nuance is really incredible, and the respect for the reader's ability to understand it is, again, blowing me away. It is always blowing me away, the respect that these guys have for their readers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will just say, like, I think it's a fundamental, like, the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, and I think what you're saying is what you're saying, I have a guess. And it's like, I've witnessed this with, like, how your process and your creative thing, you're, like, very explorative, and I think writing is that way. And, like, that's how you find your way. Like, obviously you can't know the
You're
whole
saying
book
this
at
to
the
me.
beginning and all this stuff.
Yes.
I'm saying this to you, Eddie, yeah. But I do think with sci-fi, like you might not know all the beats or all the things, but, like, there is sort of, like maybe she's finding her way through this thing, and she's sort of, like, I do agree she had to write them very quickly, but I would imagine that she knows where the train is actually, like, she probably had a star that she's fixed on, and you're right that, like, she's fuzzing around in here, but, like, sci-fi is a bit more, I think of sci-fi as just being a bit more, you do the blocks, you do the, like, here's the allegory, here's the...
I was talking about Fate's Day Night a lot this weekend. Shout out to Lapalap 2. Who I saw this weekend at Anime Central, who is a listener and a bird watcher, and a Goshujin. One of the things that makes Fate's Day Night so successful to me as a visual novel is you have to play it in a specific order, and the roots build on each other, and you come to find out the things you thought went well in other versions of the situation, like outcomes you thought were positive in an alternate reality, left some people really hanging out to dry that you didn't even know about yet. And I think that that's something that having a long series allows you to do too, where you're like, you get to have these moments where you feel good about thinking you've come to a conclusion about what's going on.
Right.
And then it gets to grow from there.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's a very cool thing that having a series lets you do. And that's part of what's so exciting about this series in particular, is that it does move and pivot and, like, change so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I am mostly skeptical when, like, so J.K. Rowling says this a lot, that she could see the entire series from the beginning, and
I'm sure she does.
I don't believe that for a second. Like, I think
not much of a series.
I think
there's not that much happens.
Right, but she also wrote it over what, 15 years? I'm not sure how long it took.
That's what she says. Yeah, she says she's got napkins with the ending,
and I don't think that's
from
true.
Before she started.
I think there's a lot of self-mythologizing and myth building that goes into working on any creative project. And I think that probably a lot of things that they thought they knew from book 1 changed by book 10. I feel like I would be skeptical of any writer that says they had an outline for...
I'm not saying that. I'm saying sci-fi, like,
major beats are usually kind of...
like, it works. You don't, like, they're, like... there is usually a bit of a mystery writing thing going on with sci-fi where you work backwards from a point.
Yes, no, I believe that. I think that can coexist with the fact that it's also changing as you write it. I think that...
Yeah.
I just don't think that she's I don't think, like, these are explorations of character moments, and we should really get back to the train.
That is actually, like, I think Megamorphs particularly exists to do that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't get the impression that it is I don't get the impression that the book is unsure of why it's doing what it's doing right here. I actually get the opposite impression, which is that Tobias is very sure of why he did what he did. Cassie is, like, wrestling with that, but, like, I don't think that the book sides with Tobias actually in the, like, I would be surprised if it totally did.
I don't know that, I think siding is maybe not the way.
Maybe not the right word.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm accidentally getting hung up on semantics here.
With this many narrators, I'm not sure that it sides against anybody. I think it endorses all their viewpoints to some
It's actually a strength of the books,
except for Ax. We all agree. No, I'm just kidding.
Who's just like, if Andalites had been here, this would have gone different.
But Ax is interesting because Ax and Tobias are the two characters, I think maybe the only characters, and maybe one of you remembers other cases. I think they're the characters that often get hid behind the curtain. Like Ax with, like, what does he know and what doesn't he know? And Ax gets to or Tobias gets to have this, like, adult, like, sometimes he's Dino Boy and sometimes he's, like, mysterious, like, when did he grow so wise? Is it like it's
right? It's like they use the fact that he's a predator living a predator's life to act like he gained some sort of forbidden knowledge that the other kids can't have. Sometimes. Not all the time.
Not all the time,
but
no.
they use that as a tool sometimes, and it does feel like it's kind of happening a little bit here.
And so maybe that's why also both of them get to have that little bit of, like, the invisible writer's hand shaping things and molding things, is because it's like, wait, what do you know that we don't know?
Yeah.
Because they have that.
They also swap books, so, like, you get half as many books as everybody else. So, like...
Yeah. And, like, another thing that's critical is, like, I have, like, this little fan theory brewing in my head. If the Nesk are so successful at stealing from all different species out there in the alien world, like, maybe this is a species that is actually somewhere as, like, powerful as... I don't know. Like, maybe they're the energy that actually propagates the Yeerks. Maybe they're like part of the eternal battle of anarchist whales and Swarm, and maybe the Ellimist and the anarchist
and
whales.
the Ellimist and the unknown dark forces that they talk about.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Like the Ellimist could have placed the Mercora here,
right
and the Dark
next
Force
to the
could have
volcano.
placed and the Ellimist could have placed the Nesk here. And the Ellimist then is possibly the force that sent the kids back here to make sure this happened.
Exactly.
Like, it's so easy to say that so much is Ellimist involvement because they can have such a light touch when they want to.
Right.
So, like,
but they
it's so hard to
don't.
know.
And anything with time travel, I'm like, that smells like an Ellimist.
Yeah. Usually they want to show Tobias at least their signature. Like, look, you know who had hands in
True.
this? Yeah.
Although
they like to take credit. Sometimes.
The other fan sound off in the Discord, but the other fan theory could be that Saria rips are this common and that, like, time travelers just happen all the time.
Could
and
be.
you have to be really careful.
And you just need to find a
if you're near an explosion,
weapon
yeah, you might go back in time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like how the light bulb gets invented.
The way that we got so
time.
comfortable with these kids running around with nuclear weapons is wild.
I know.
You just accept it in this book.
Yeah.
Let's get back to it. Let's
chapters
dive into
34 to 35?
35, yeah, let's do it.
Tobias and the other Animorphs are back at the Mercora settlement. Tobias flies around the settlement, reflective. It's odd to fly here. So much heat rises up from the town and the fields, creating incredible thermals, and yet Tobias has to be careful. He cannot fly too high or else he'll hit the force field. Somehow, the Mercora had figured out how to release the air through the force field. They were an advanced race, smart and decent. That feels weird to say. They were an advanced race, Tobias observes, smart and decent. Tobias wants to remember the Mercora. He feels it is his mission to really see the settlement and to remember it, to bear witness to these people and this place. After all, it will be lost. All of it. Tobias sees his friends talking to a few excited Mercora. He soars down to learn what's happening. Cassie tells him that the Nesk are leaving Earth. Looks like the good guys won after all, Rachel says. Guess so, huh? Tobias says, knowing that his girlfriend is going to feel like a big dummy in a few hours. The Mercora celebrate throughout the afternoon into the evening. Night falls. Tobias watches the comet travel through the sky. Oh my god. The Animorphs meet to decide how and when to use the nuke. Ax says that he can use the Mercora computers to come up with a plan. Up in the sky, there's a blue flame at a right angle to the trajectory of the comet. The Mercora panic. Sirens wail. Turns out that the Nesk have refused to accept defeat. They've used their own weapons to redirect the comet, not just towards Earth, but towards this very settlement. Petty. Cassie asks if there is any way to push the comet back on its original course. Yes, actually, the Mercora say, with that bomb you took from the Nesk. Cassie says that they have no choice but to help the Mercora. After all, are their 6 lives worth more than this entire people? Rachel and Marco are outraged by this. It's their only ticket home. Jake looks to Ax for his thoughts, but Ax doesn't answer. He's too busy listening to what Tobias is telling him in private thought speak. Ax studies the small but devastatingly powerful nuke in his hands. Popcorn quicks.
We cut to Cassie's perspective as the Mercora leave the Animorphs to discuss their plan. The Animorphs vote 4-2 to give the nukes to the Mercora, with only Rachel and Marco opposed. Tobias and Ax didn't say anything at all. How weird. Ax handed the weapon over to the Mercora without a peep. No peeps from them. They're just peepless. The Mercora take the weapon to their flying saucer and take off for the comet, singing tunes of success and harmony and planting comet trees. We did it. We did it. Hooray.
Yay!
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All right. Tobias says that they all have to be far, far away from the settlement when the comet hits. This is a shock to everybody, by the way. Everybody's freaking out. He explains that Ax has disarmed the nuke so it won't explode. The weapon is a dud, much like this premise. Am I right? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just being rude. I just want to be a crude, rude dude, you know? Cut all of that. And the Mercora won't know until it's too late. So the Animorphs have to morph into birds and leave now. The entire planet changes today, Tobias explains to Cassie and the others. Dinosaurs have ruled for 140 million years. The only mammals are tiny rats, small enough to avoid the attention of dinosaurs. How do mammals evolve? Because dinosaurs fall, just like the Mercora, because something came along to wipe them out. The comet has to hit, Tobias says, or else humans will never exist. I wanted to laugh, Cassie says. We acted like we were making a decision, but Tobias had already made the hard decision. The comet would not be stopped. The only question now was, would we run away and try to live? We knew the answer to that. Thanks, Tobias, I said. Did you really say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy. That makes no sense to me. I don't know if he thought I was being sincere or sarcastic. Oh, there it is. Got it. Cool. I wasn't sure myself. I opened my wings and flew. Yeah.
I don't really...
Fly, you fools.
I don't like this idea of the way that Tobias takes it on as like a burden.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think it's stupid.
And it doesn't happen here because we don't get to hear his thoughts, right? But that is what happens is like he made the hard decision so that his friends didn't have to. And I don't know, is that... Do I just not like that side of Tobias?
I appreciated it. I don't know if I thought it was the right choice, but I thought it was an interesting choice.
Yes, I agree with that.
The only thing that I want to hit about this chapter, I'm wondering if we should just like go through the rest at this point, because it's kind of all wrapping up to a head. The only thing that's chapter specific here that I have is I want to hear your guys' auditions for the role of Jake with the silky voice of anger he used when he realized Tobias had overcalled him on a decision.
Where was that?
It was in the middle of the chapter. It was damn it. I don't
have the book up, so hold on.
No, don't worry about it. Let's do it. That's fine.
I want to hear the silky voice of anger. I don't even remember.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, you need to explain this right now.
Yeah.
Jake said in the low, silky voice he uses when he's really mad.
Oh,
yes.
You need to explain this right now.
This is why Cassie's with him, I think.
It's this.
Has anyone else noticed how his voice gets silky when it's
Right?
Yeah. When he has a slow frown on or a fast frown. He has a slow smile, but a fast frown. You've got a fast frown. So, yeah, Eddie, can you hit me with the line?
I'm trying to find it still.
Miranda, can you say it again?
You need to explain this right now.
Eddie.
Okay. Wait, can I have a setup? Tobias set me up here? Can someone do his blaze of sudden anger?
Tobias, what have you done? I demanded. I did what had to be done, all right, Tobias yelled in a blaze of sudden anger. I did what had to be done. I made the call so that none of you would have to feel bad about it.
You need to explain this right now.
Incredible.
Hell yeah.
You were like the character from L.A. Noire just then. Cole Phelps.
Carl Phelps?
The only other
Cole
thing
Phelps? Is it Cole
I want to hit
Phelps?
here, Eddie and I had a little thing about the Arachnite Queen. If you save the Arachnite Queen, she comes back to help you later in a later game. So I'm like, I wanted this to be like they talked to like 4 Mercora, and they were like, listen, we don't have time to explain. You have to get out of here, but come back at this time. Go to Mars or something.
Yes.
Come back at this time. We won't. If you come back before then, we won't know who you are.
Yes.
So come back here.
Yes.
And we could have gained a powerful new ally when we went home. You know what I mean? But I guess it makes sense.
You have to wait. How long is it? 65 million years, and then come back to Earth. We will need you then. Yeah.
But again, if you show up a day too soon,
we'll kill you.
We'll probably try to kill you.
I won't be there to stop them. Yeah.
Let's do chapter 36, 37.
Sure.
Yeah,
and
let's
round
close it
out the
out.
rest of the book. Yeah.
Is that the and then there's the afterwards, okay? Jake and the other Animorphs fly away from the doomed Mercora settlement in their bird morphs. Jake's mad at Tobias, mad at Ax for helping Tobias, even though he believes they did the right thing. Being angry at them for what was about to happen to the Mercora is easier than blaming himself. As they fly, Rachel asks Ax how big the explosion from this comet will be. Ax estimates that it will be about 1 million times more powerful than the submarine that launched them here. Eventually, Ax announces that they've flown far enough, and they land in a tree. By now they know, Rachel said, looking back in the direction we'd come from. Who? Marco asked her. The Mercorans. They know the nuke didn't go off. They know it's all over for them. Marco nodded. Yeah, I wonder if they know why. I mean, that we did it. I wonder if they figured out that we didn't come from some far-off place, but some far-off time on this planet. I wonder if they'll figure out why we... why.
Merked them? The Mercora? That's it. How did we just get that?
Kids enter the ocean, morph into dolphins. They swim out to sea and wait for the world to end.
Cassie remains on the surface as the comet hits. She says that the entire universe seems to rip apart, and then Cassie and the others are floating. Ax thought speaks that the Thesario rip is collapsing. Time seems to fast forward. They see the dinosaurs crinkle and blacken, watch as smoke and dust consumes everything. The sun is blotted out, the earth freezes, the continents float and collide, mountains form and oceans appear. They see the first humans build their first cities. Suddenly, Cassie is back in the ocean with the others. It was raining again. There was the boardwalk, the volcano was gone. The giant footprints were gone on the beach. The kids go home. Cassie learns that there were no deaths in the submarine explosion, all thanks to a few helpful dolphins. Jake goes over to Cassie's house and they try to make sense of what happened. Turns out that they didn't retain any of their dinosaur morphs, but why? Maybe Ax will know, Cassie says. She wonders if they were meant to be there, if they did the right thing, or just messed everything up. Jake didn't have an answer, Cassie says, so I slipped my arm through his. We looked up at the sky for a while. No comment, Jake says. Not today, anyway, Cassie says.
That was beautiful. It was actually supposed to be no comment.
No comment.
Tobias taking it upon himself to shoulder the burden, I do, I guess, have mixed feelings about, but I thought it was probably a good choice because I don't think he thought they had time to debate it.
Oh, you mean
what I
you
mean?
mean when they were having their victory dinners? You didn't have time to pull them aside for an hour?
So, Miranda,
Well, they were going to try to stop him probably if he did it. And based on what we think of time travel in this world, it would mean that whatever they did, this was going to happen. But it is weird. He wanted them to give them the nuke so they felt good, like they'd made a good decision.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And then he said,
says-
by the way, the nuke won't work. Like,
But he pitches it as if, by the time they figure it out, they're all going to be dead. But that's not true. From our understanding, they figure it out and they go, they're having their celebration on the ship, and then they go,
Yeah.
oh, well, what do we do now? Do they fly back to the planet again? And then...
there's so many questions. It's like, so they watch like a time lapse of Earth as they close the Sario Rip, which did not happen with the last Sario Rip, but it's heavily implied that the events of the last Sario Rip fully didn't happen. So I guess they're saying
Jake. Jake remembers, right?
he remembers, but the events that actually took place didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
It got
there was like a wrinkle to that, if you remember, because they like all died or something.
Yes, they all died.
And the dying had something to do with them not existing at the same time, so they kind of just resumed, but he made another choice somehow.
Yeah, when they died, they got sent back to the
But
moment.
they didn't have I don't know if they got sent back or if his consciousness just like picked up in continuity or something.
Yeah.
Because it's also unclear in that book if they actually moved in time or were just in the middle of the Amazon rainforest or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think Cassie determined by the position of the sun that they had moved slightly
backwards in time
forward.
a little bit or something. I think it was backwards.
You're probably right.
Yeah. But it wasn't like millions of years is my point. They did something where he was having the flashbacks.
Right,
moving
because they
forward
were
in time,
overlapping with when he was in the
having
jungle.
them in the jungle. Right.
they
'cause his
didn't perfectly
consciousness
line up.
was
Yeah,
split.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas now we don't have that problem. And this time we're going back through the Sario Rip.
Right.
Is my theory.
Yeah, that makes sense. We get an interesting thing from Cassie here, who's usually like the most emotionally tied to like fate and the universe. And she talks about, you could almost feel Mother Earth crying out in pain when the comet hit. But then she says, Earth is just a big ball of dirt and water and air and life spinning through space. It's only important because it's ours. The universe didn't care that the orbit of Earth and the trajectory of a comet would intersect at this time in this place. And yet in my mind, in my heart, I cried out for Earth. And like this feels like the emotion feels right, but she feels very detached from the consequence. Like she's like, the universe doesn't care. And that feels like a new thought from Cassie.
Yeah.
It's definitely giving the bifurcation of it's definitely like she is splitting in two now. She's dissociating.
And that's what we want at this point in the show. Just kidding. We want Cassie to be split into two.
On KA Applegate's whiteboard, it's like, and in this book, she splits in two. And in this book...
Am I seeing double here? 4 Cassies.
I did have this thought in this moment, and this isn't the first time I think this has come up, and I don't have I don't remember the other YA at the time, so I don't know, but there's something that kind of felt like I felt the absence of these kids having any kind of religion or faith in this moment. Like we know the Ellimist exists. And for some reason, I feel like we do know. I think Marco's brought up religion has come up in particular cases. Like I think we know that Marco's family went to church, right? And
at least, that's like where he met Eric, funeral. Right?
Yes,
at least for the funeral, they at least went enough. It's my impression, and I don't know if I'm accidentally casting this over because of the ethnicities of the people involved, but like my impression was that like church was at least important to his mom because it sounds like they stopped going after she died.
Right.
But they maybe would have kept going. Like it may be important to his dad too. He just couldn't keep going because it reminded him of her.
Yeah.
I know from like a spoiler. I don't know when it gets revealed, but I do know that Jake and Rachel are Jewish.
Yes, yeah.
Same.
But do you know what I mean?
They do feel like a very secular group. It feels...
No, but there's really... The important thing to the point is there is really no centering religion as a concept.
No, religion doesn't come up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I feel like, and maybe this is just my
But God
perception.
exists, so I'm just wondering where
I was
Oh, Eddie.
I was pretty little at the time.
Oh, bud. Sit down
like,
for this one, okay?
My perception of the US is that while religion obviously had a big push in the 80s and like the focus on the family, all that shit, what am I thinking of? It doesn't matter. Reagan and stuff had like a big evangelical
Under God.
push.
You're talking about Under God. Keep going.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Focus on the
Family
Family
is much newer.
80s.
Yeah.
But
also good. Yeah. Keep going.
But
keep going. I'm just excited.
Post
to hear your point.
9/11, I feel like there was a big resurgence in how much God was talked about in everyday life. Like my little years, I don't, and maybe it's because I was little, but I don't feel like everyone was like, everywhere I went, Christianity was like on banners and like everywhere. But like, that's not strictly true. But like, there were places where it happened, but like, it didn't feel as pervasive in the general secular culture as it is now.
I would push back on that from my experience. Just from my experience.
Totally.
Like, I was like constantly, cause like, I guess because like at some point I asked about God, like I just remember through most of my childhood being like, there are tons of these children whose family believes these things, and my
That is
family
true.
doesn't go to church, and almost every other family does.
That is
And,
true.
like, yeah, unless they're Jewish and like blah blah blah. blah.
And go to temple.
Right.
But like, I didn't feel like it
University, go Owls.
I didn't feel like it was everywhere in the world outside church. Like, it seemed to be like most people went to church, but outside church, God wasn't on everything.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Like, and like,
maybe.
that's just my memory of it.
I don't know.
I had the
Yeah,
very
it's
confusing
interesting.
perspective that my family was Christian, but for some reason they stumbled their way into living into a primarily Jewish neighborhood. So I was basically, I always thought, everyone else is Jewish, and they have much better holidays than us because lots of cars park on the streets outside their houses. And
I had a lot of Jewish friends growing up, so like I definitely. But yes, our family wasn't particularly religious, at least in our immediate family, which was interesting because there were people in our family who were religious, and are people in our family who are religious.
I'm sorry, Yaya, you tried.
You tried. I know. She got me my little
Game Boy.
children's
Yeah.
illustrated Bible stories, and it just didn't stick. I know them. I know the stories.
But
Yeah.
Yaya, you have this to be proud of. You did teach me to swear.
Well, I guess
Oh, that's true.
do we think that the kids? I mean, the impression that we're given is that this worldview, this like, the kids didn't go through this change during the books, as far as we know, where like suddenly they're like maybe they lost their faith or something. It's just not something that comes up, and that feels like. Do either of you have a better sense of like other YA at the time? Like, was that a common?
I think it's a Star Trek
It didn't
thing,
come up
and it's
in my memory.
But I think it's a Star Trek thing. Like, Star Trek is mind-numbingly secular. Like, and there's a Carl Sagan anti-religion, like the whole ball of dust thing is very like pale blue dot. It's giving science writing of the 80s, 90s. And
so that's
I
like a
think
framework that these are definitely writing it.
Yeah, and if you watch the Magic School Bus, no religion.
No religion.
So, like, if you were in the STEM teaching of the time, there was
Yeah, it's
none of
interesting.
that.
Yeah.
But I will also say, like, I read The Magic Treehouse, and it didn't come up that any of this spit in the face of
Interesting.
God.
No,
like, it didn't.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like nothing. And sometimes they would go to places where people held different beliefs. They went to ancient
Yeah,
Egypt, and
yeah.
I don't remember them.
It's part of that like 90s diversity thing,
Yeah,
I think.
I think I remember them saying things like that it was antiquated or it was ancient and it was a mythology.
Yes.
Like, they said things like that.
Exoticizing a little bit, yeah.
But when they went to like the medieval times and saw people practicing Christianity a little differently, they didn't get too deep into it. But like when it came up, it wasn't like they're doing this because the mythology of the time. They definitely like sidestepped.
You know what it's giving is PBS Kid. Like, PBS is
Yeah.
pretty godless also. And if you like lived in that world, there just really was no mention of those things.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. It appeared in the Discord that it sounds like the whole thing of Tobias not being healed by morphing was just KA has since owned as a mistake that she made.
Crazy. That's crazy town.
And
Yeah, I saw that.
also, so that explains that. But what it doesn't explain, or maybe does, but is that they don't retain their morphs. And that's a mystery. They don't get to keep their dinosaur morphs, which I think would be pretty useful. I think
The
We're
only
gonna have to
thing
ask her.
I agree. The only thing I can say, I know they all died in the other Sario rip, but they didn't get to keep any of their morphs from that. So, like, maybe it's a going back through the Sario rip thing. You could try to make an argument that, like, when you go back through the Sario rip, even if what happened on the other side technically happened, you go back to the state you were at the beginning, like, when you left. Like,
Maybe.
you rejoin. You know what I mean? So, like, even though it technically happened, they rejoin where they were and they don't have the
Maybe it
morphs from those
touches Z
experiences.
space in a different spot. Yeah.
Something like that.
I like that. Yeah. All right. I like that. What are we reading next?
predictions we're going to do Hork-Bajir Chronicles next.
Really?
Next?
Yes.
Are you sure? Because you had actually changed your mind on that previously.
It is.
You were like
there's no
wishy-washier than a Democrat in an election. No.
I thought someone said it was supposed to be after book 22.
That is one person, but it seems like the majority believes that we should read Hork-Bajir Chronicles next. It is like there's not. It's the first book I think we've reached where
Did you just
other
say
than
nut?
no, the first book that we've reached other than Andalite Chronicles. So I guess it makes sense where people don't have a clear opinion about.
Yeah, it seems I'm seeing like Hork-Bajir can be read anywhere between 13 and 23.
All right, let's do it. Let's do
Yeah.
it. Let's go. I got my hard copy.
And I don't remember. I had a thought, Chris, before you brought that up, and it's just gone. So
About the nutting?
no, before the nutting, prior to the nutting.
You're having pre-nut unclarity.
Yeah. Here's what I wanted to do. Can we? Do we have any fun ideas? Do we think Megamorphs 3? I don't even know when it comes in the book order. Do we think it's a monster of the week, sort of like the Valik? Do we think it's some crazy scenario like going back to the age of dinosaurs, or something totally different?
I'm sorry, you're asking about Megamorphs 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, are you asking about Hork-Bajir Chronicles? That doesn't sound
Yeah, no.
I think
well-
Megamorphs 3.
Yeah, so the Megamorphs 1 was unique from other Animorphs books because it started with a pool party and ended with a whale.
You're right. That was the framing. That was the frame.
That was the framing.
Yeah.
It was the pool party all along, and they never left the pool party. And really, Darlene had decided to do a cannonball into the pool party,
which exploded
into
her.
the-
In
An
the
occurrence at Owl Creek Pool.
So, actually, famously in that book, there's a situation at the pool party where there's too many flies on all the food. So what Darlene does is she covers herself in fly bait, probably, I don't know, vinegar. Anyway, and she like jumps.
Thought you caught more with honey than vinegar.
Oh, right. So she runs around the edge of the pool
ants.
till all the flies are following her. And then she cannonballs into the pool and all the flies go in and drown in the pool, which makes the pool hella gross. But that's where Cassie gets the idea to do the whale morph
The whale.
to the
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, after watching
I
her friend
do
Darlene
think-
explode upon contact.
Chunks
I do
of
think
Darlene.
Megamorphs 3 will return to everyday Animorph life. I think it will be more like Megamorphs 1 in that it takes place in like the regular world, like where they live. I think there will be more kid hijinks.
I agree
Because
with you.
we took a real pivot with this one.
Yeah.
And given that like Hork-Bajir Chronicles is coming up and some other heavy stuff is coming up, I think Megamorphs 3 is going to be lighthearted.
Yeah.
So
So I'm going to
it's
combine
either
your two predictions. I think pool party. That's what I
That
took
was
away from what
not
you said.
that was not a prediction.
No.
That was an
Yeah,
explanation
Chris
of
predicts
the
that there will
past.
be another pool party.
This
Big
is
part
just
of middle
like
school.
you rewriting the notes. Keep going.
Anyway, I think that there will be a pool party. I think that it'll be more every day. It'll be a long weekend. It's a 3-day weekend.
Okay.
I think just like we got Tobias and Rachel pair off, and that one they got to hang out in the stomach. I think Marco and Ax they're going to get their first time away from
Okay.
the group. They get locked
Interesting.
in a different room at the house while the pool party.
So I would say it's like it's probably
They were in the
like,
basement when Darlene exploded.
the entirety. That's what it is. The entirety of book 3 takes place inside the closet that they were in the basement where they were during the pool party.
That would be lit if they did the like trapped in a room episode.
Yes.
Oh my god!
That would be lit.
But didn't make it a flashback episode. Don't make it that's so stupid.
No.
Although, my God, the idea of a flashback book is hilarious. Like, just read this
Remember
chapter.
the time when, and then Marco describes book 14 in a completely wrong way.
That sounds a lot like our theme music. You know, the boop 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 boop.
Oh, is that not what it was?
No,
It was.
that was the
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 dissolving
whole tone scale.
Yeah, the dissolving into the flashback.
I also thought it was.
I think it would be really funny to do non-narrator Animorphs memories of books that they didn't narrate and they're just wrong.
Yeah. A tornado.
I
came
thought the
through
truck
and
ship went great.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.